Elizabeth Lawton made a very bad mistake on Facebook. As communications director for Republican Congressman Stephen Fincher, she ripped the president's daughters, Sasha and Malia, for looking bored and distracted at the annual turkey pardon session. Try showing a little class, Lawton wrote, and she wasn't done. Act like being in the White House matters to you. Dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at a bar. A story quickly made all three network newscasts. There was a lot of criticism. Elizabeth Lawton lost her job, and Christina Bellantoni of Roll Call is still with us. And joining us now is Susan Faricio, Chief Congressional Correspondent for the Washington Examiner. So, obviously, a congressional communications director losing her job for going after the Obama daughters is a significant story, but does it deserve that much coverage?
Well, as you've written, aptly so, that it's really easy to suddenly ruin your career on social media these days. It can happen very quickly.
In seconds.
This was a Twitter-ready story because you could really tear her down in 140 characters. There were pictures of Sasha and Malia standing in front of their dad, rolling their eyes in their short skirts. It really was perfect for social media. That being said, what isn't television ready about the Gruber story? That came with video, it came with all kinds of, the media didn't pay a heck of a lot of attention to that. So why are we paying so much attention to Lawton's story? I think it has to do with the subject matter. It has to do with the snarky comment she made, the pictures of the daughters, the idea that these kids are off limits. It was sort of perfect for social media, and it took off in a viral way.
And it doesn't need to have an outcome, right? You know, what Jonathan Gruber is talking about, a major health care law that is law and has been upheld by the Supreme Court, like, that's still an ongoing political debate that is even happening in Congress right now, whereas this is, okay, you can talk about it, you can show the pictures.
Oh, it's
and
the easiest story in the world.
Holiday week.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving,
you know,
Thanksgiving holiday period. Yeah. It's, you show the turkey, you show the daughters, you show the Facebook post. It's a morality play. But look, these very same news organizations, all three network newscasts covered this obscure congressional aide, who, by the way, apologized within hours and gave up her job. It wasn't like she wasn't punished, and I think recognizes what a mistake she made. And it was on the front page of the Washington Post, and it was in the New York Times. Well, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the three network newscasts waited anywhere from 4, 6, 5, 7, 8, it's been a long morning, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days to cover the Gruber videos in which he called the American people stupid and said Obamacare was deceptively sold. Isn't that kind of a more important story?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that you don't necessarily need to conflate the two, right? You know, it should have gotten more coverage. This, in Roll Call's defense, I'll say we did quite a bit about this in part because we cover congressional staffers. You know, we had done a Hill Climber, which is our profiles of up-and-coming staffers, about her just a year ago, learned a little bit about her. She owns her own social media business as well, giving people advice on what to do. And so, you know, this was an area where it was important in talking about what those consequences can be. But, you know, I'm sensitive to this, too. I'm Chelsea Clinton's same age, and I remember very much, you know, when she was getting attacked for being an awkward young lady, which I also was, you know, by Rush Limbaugh.
You've overcome
others.
that.
But it's a difficult situation, and so the media does give it a ton of coverage.
There is a history here. I mean, I remember writing about People magazine putting Chelsea Clinton on the cover and being denounced by Bill and Hillary Clinton, and this was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, which Chelsea was caught in the middle of. And I also question when Jenna and Barbara Bush, when George W. Bush was in the White House, they were busted for underage drinking in Texas. And you had to report that because it was a law enforcement action. But I said some people are going too far and they're bringing up the president's former drinking. So there's a history here about shouldn't a president's kids be off limits to the media?
Sure. I think they haven't really been off limits. You go back to Teddy Roosevelt's daughter. This has not been off-limits territory, but I think it just depends how far you're going to go. And I think Lawton's comments were considered a step too far. It was a long and critical attack on these girls, and they're very young. And I have to say, those dresses are the style, whether you like it or not. So I thought it was a little bit of an unfair attack just on its face. But to put it out on social media, she made it public. These days, social media, you can be your own publisher. It's not the newspaper's fault.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't have an editor.
That's right. That's exactly right.
This was on her personal Facebook page.
Yes.
So clearly somebody who is friends with her, you know, ratted her out, made the screen grab, right? I mean, yes, it's possible it could have been found, but somebody sent this somewhere. And, you know, the girls, in addition to maybe they're, you know, wearing the styles of the day, but they're like bored of their dad, the way any girls would be. Like, oh, there's dad making his turkey joke again.
It was bored.
You know.
Yeah, we invited Elizabeth Lawton on the program, and she is lying low for the moment. But you indicated that maybe because Elizabeth Lawton is a Republican staffer and the target was the Obama girls, it was treated differently than Gruber. I'm wondering, though, whether it wasn't a lot of journalists, many of whom are parents, being genuinely upset that the 13-year-old and the 16-year-old were targets now.
I think it's a little of both. I think because a lot of young people are journalists who don't have kids and just kind of like the idea of maybe going after a Republican staffer or a congressional staffer in general. That may be more of what it's about.
And it was so over the top. And just, again, an easy story to cover. So, yeah, of course, you're going to go after it this way. And then they stretched it out by she stepped down several days later and left the office. It wasn't like that happened immediately.
Then they dug into her past, too, and found, oh, hey, you're going to call them out on the carpet for doing something as teenagers? What about your own history and her shoplifting episode?
Right, but she's being vilified online, and I think the story's over too much. We're not going to talk about it again.
Sure.
All right, Christina Bellantoni, Susan Faricio, thanks very much for stopping by this Sunday afternoon.